let's start with the absolute bust of Epstein. This was such a joke. So everything about this was poorly handled. I'm a big Pam Bondi fan. I love that she's running DOJ. One of the things she's doing right now, which I greatly appreciate, is she's dropping all the bullshit Biden DOJ investigations into various police and fire forces across the country for not lowering their test standards so that more women could get involved, or changing the test so that more African Americans qualified than actually passed the test. They were getting sued by Biden's DOJ left and right. Today, she's dropping them all. Great. She's doing a great job. But the Epstein file thing was a disaster. They embarrassed themselves, and it seems like a totally unnecessary thing. Like they stepped on a rake for no apparent reason. What happened yesterday was a bunch of right-wing influencers were invited to the White House, and they were given binders that said like Epstein phase 1, like the phase 1 release. Okay, that was interesting. You know, I'm not going to lie, this was a little awkward because it was very celebratory, and the Epstein story is about his alleged molestation and inappropriate behavior with very young girls. So it's just one of those things, you got to be careful because you don't want to look like you're celebrating anything having to do with that. But I understand that the celebration was around the fact that finally we might be getting the full story on Epstein. So they got those files, those folders from Pam Bondi. They had sat in a meeting, according to them, with Pam Bondi, who gave them the files. Like, here they are. Here's tranche 1. And absolutely nothing was in them. It came out later from those influencers, among others, who I think were also disappointed. Nothing else, absolutely everything in there was already known. Not a single new thing was printed or offered. And this whole thing had been some sort of a rope-a-dope. I don't think it was designed to make any of the right-wing influencers look dumb, but they were not well served by the DOJ yesterday. The DOJ should have been more careful before they did that to some of the most ardent allies to the Trump administration. It was kind of bullshit. I was pissed on their behalf. And then by the end of the day, what you had was Pam Bondi firing off a nasty missive to Kash Patel saying, where are my files? I demanded from the FBI that they all be given to me. They weren't. I've been told by a whistleblower the FBI withheld certain critical Epstein documents. When I spoke to you earlier, you were as surprised by this as I was. So then why did they go through the exercise of doing this with the influencers? Because it looks like the timing on that was she knew before she gave them those binders that she had been strong-armed or stiff-armed by the FBI. And so the whole thing wound up being somewhat embarrassing unnecessarily for, I think, the well-meaning right-wing influencers that showed up there, willing to report on whatever news was given to them. P.S. It was nothing. On Pam, on Kash Patel. And for what? Why? Why did this have to happen?
I think you just hit on the crux of the problem for them, which is they were, on the one hand, they're trying to have it both ways. On the one hand, they were saying this was a big document dump, the first step towards total transparency. They're about to purge the deep state and expose names. And that's basically what Pam Bondi said on Jesse Waters' show the night before all of this happened. And then they want to have it the other way, too, which is that, well, we always knew this was going to be underwhelming because we were being thwarted by, as they're saying, SDNY, the Southern District of New York. So it doesn't make sense that they actually went public and said this is, a huge step towards transparency. And then at the same time also said, actually, it's nothing because we're being thwarted by the deep state. Like those two things can't be true at the same time. And it seems like they were in a rush to get documents out because they're under a lot of pressure. This was a huge Trump pledge to actually release all kinds of information, whether it's JFK files, MLK files, Epstein files. This is going to be a really big problem for Pam Bondi. And Megyn, I don't know if you've sensed this. I've sensed the White House is really upset with the Department of Justice over this, just talking to people in the last 24 hours. Like they feel this was a huge error because the optics were so bad, because it turned so many people in MAGA world against each other so early in the administration. Mm-hmm. It may seem like a silly sideshow thing, but I actually think it was a pretty significant blunder that's going to have ripple effects in the days and weeks to come.
I felt bad for those influencers. I mean, many of whom I know and think a lot of, who got, I'm sure, very excited by the call to go meet with the Attorney General of the United States. This is not like somebody punked me who I never heard of before, who claimed he had Epstein documents. It's the sitting attorney general. And they went, they're at the White House. Like, this is a big deal. I think they went there totally in good faith and earnestly and trusted her and got humiliated by this document dump that was a nothing. Like, why would you take people who absolutely love you and have been very good to you and embarrass them like this? I don't get it. I'm sure it wasn't intentional. I think it was just incompetence, I guess. I'm not sure exactly how this went down. But if I were any one of those people, I would be demanding an actual explanation of what was done to me and the real information be given to me ASAP, right? Like, now I've stuck my neck out for you. You've humiliated me. I better be getting whatever the FBI and or SDNY, the Southern District of New York, has some of the documents, since they were the ones going after Epstein. I better be the first one to receive this stuff, right? Like, instead, yesterday, we just seemed to have the nasty letter from Pam Bondi to Kash Patel, like, gee, everyone's been duped. But again, the timeline appears to be she knew that before she gave out these documents. Then on top of it, they gave all the right-wing influencers talking points that sort of explain what happened and like how great this whole sequence of events was. And I guess they didn't tell them this is just guidance for you. And a couple of them tweeted out the exact same message afterward that reads as follows. Today I met with President Trump. Yeah, so it's not just Bondi, it's Trump. President Trump, Vice President J.D. Vance, AG Pam Bondi, and FBI Director Kash Patel in the Oval. They handed me a binder copy of the Epstein Files, the most transparent administration in American history. The best part? This is just the start. AG Bondi confirmed there are thousands more Epstein file documents being secretly held in the SDNY, and they will be delivered to the DOJ in D.C. by February 28th, which is today. People will be going to jail for what they've done. So she gave them this guidance to like tweet out, oh, this is just the first tranche, but more is coming, which was an attempt, like a nod at her knowledge that she didn't have anything in there that was new, but that wasn't transparent, right? That wasn't actually made clear. And then these guys are tweeting out the exact same tweet, right? Like they just, and the way that's avoided is you say, this is a guide, this is guidance, this is like a suggested tweet. I wouldn't send out this exact thing. We're giving this to everybody. These are kind of the points it'd be great if you could hit. Now, if you're a journalist, you don't take that at all. You say, thank you for your tweet, goodbye. But these are, I don't think they would call themselves exactly journalists in the traditional sense, which is one of the things we love about them. But I just feel like if you wanted to embarrass these, 10 people, this is exactly how you would have run this whole thing.
You couldn't have scripted it better. No, I mean, it was incredibly humiliating. It makes them end up looking like Pravda, like they're taking talking points and being the useful idiots for the administration's complete blunder on, overpromising and wildly under-delivering. So I actually think this is going to be a problem. I'm with you, Megyn. Like, I have pretty high hopes for Pam Bondi and definitely for Kash Patel as well. But this, to me, feels like it'll be a big problem going forward for Pam Bondi, because people in fact, some of these influencers, some of their staunchest allies on social media are not going to give up on looking for these files and trying to get these files. Pam Bondi was the attorney general in the state of Florida. An attorney general in the state of Florida over the time period in which she was there would know a lot of stuff about what was happening with the Jeffrey Epstein case, presumably. And so there's just going to be a lot of questions. Remember, Alex Acosta, Trump's first labor secretary, was really involved in the sweetheart deal. Like, this is the Florida connections aren't great here. So I think this is going to follow Pam Bondi, unfortunately.
I mean, everybody's still interested in Epstein, I think. I heard some people being like, who cares? I'm like, no, I care. I actually really would like to see what's in the files. If look, I'm not expecting it to be like, appointment Bill Clinton to see 13-year-old on Epstein Island, June 2006. That's not going to be in there. That's just a joke. But there could be a client list. Right now, it's just his contact list, which we've already seen. And by the way, being in Jeffrey Epstein's contact book does not mean anything. It really doesn't mean anything. Like, I have tons of people in my phone's contacts with whom I actually have almost nothing to do. Whatever, they like contact you one time, you exchange info. It doesn't mean anything. What we need is more. Like, who actually was a frequent repeat visitor on Epstein Island, right? That would be good to know. We have some names. But what's being promised is like, there's more and it's juicy. And that's why it's been withheld by these people. And maybe something about his death. Like, people have genuine natural questions about that. Do you think we'll get any answers?
I think it's going to be really difficult for them to not provide answers. And the question for me is, do the answers they provide continue to sort of look like what yesterday looked like? And I mean that when it comes to JFK, MLK, and all of that, because Trump was on Joe Rogan as he was courting young men, a very important demographic for him in this last election, talking about how this stuff was all going to come out. And so is it just going to be an underwhelming drip, 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 as a lot of cynics always predicted, or is there going to be substantial information release? I have a really hard time seeing them politically getting away with not infuriating all of the, like, again, some of the same people that were at the White House yesterday. If all this time goes by and they never produce anything, I think the hope is that what they don't keep trying to do is manipulating the public by tossing scraps and acting like it's a really big deal. There are potential loopholes in the JFK EO. I actually sent a comment request to the CIA a couple of weeks ago about whether they're planning to use some of those loopholes, and they gave me a non-response. But this stuff is going to build. We're a month into office, so I don't really think they have a choice. One thing we know quickly that the FBI has is discs that were confiscated from Jeffrey Epstein's townhouse that have like blank name plus blank name on these discs. They said that these are things that they took from the Epstein townhouse in New York. So there really are specific, tangible records we know they have. And as those questions keep building and building, good luck if you're going to continue ignoring that after promising so much.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's. I think it was Elon who tweeted out today, like, things don't change on a dime. And I think he was suggesting Pam Bondi's there, Kash Patel's there, but the whole staff hasn't changed at DOJ or FBI, and certainly not at SDNY. And so I think he was telegraphing, like, give them a minute to try to get the troops in line. I agree with all of that, yes, but then don't overpromise. Don't make a big show of things. Don't embarrass your most loyal supporters by pretending you're giving them some big scoop, only to have the internet say there's absolutely nothing here at all that's new. You don't just go out and buy a life jacket when the boat is already sinking, and you don't buy gold when the economy has already collapsed. Clearly, others are heeding this advice, as gold hit all-time highs already this year. It's not too late for you too, and you could have Birch Gold help you diversify into physical gold. Birch Gold specializes in helping you convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold for no money out of pocket. One recent 5-star review said Birch Gold was, quote, knowledgeable, helpful, non-pressure. Get your free info kit on gold by texting the letters MK to the numbers 989898. There is no obligation, just useful information. With an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau and countless 5-star reviews, text MK to 989898 and let the experts at Birch Gold help you secure your future today with gold. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.